Barb, I'd like to start with the internet and considering that you you were active in the music scene even before it started and when it was, when it came out, America Online to where it is now. I know it's a broad question, but when you discovered it, Barb, what was your impression of it and how have you know, did it take a while for you to get going with it? What were your thoughts on it?
I actually did not get onto America Online until many years after it was started.
Right.
Um, Catalina Soltero
Mhm.
helped me to get signed up for it,
Right.
and I'm actually on my brother's account yet. So anyway,
Right. Yeah.
uh, d- it was so new, I had no idea what it was about.
Hmm. Right. Because Barb, I would like to think, because this is how I was introduced to going to booking a club, is, you get the band's demo, you do a press pack, a makeshift of some sort, and club booking hours. This is something that these days that's pretty much unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, it makes me wonder sometimes if there's even anybody monitoring their
Hmm.
email addresses. I send notes to them, don't hear from them, don't hear from them, don't hear from them. I finally end up driving out in person trying to find somebody to talk to.
Right. Okay. Um, I would say, I would say when the internet came out, I'm just gonna go, I was doing this. I will admit, music wise, it wasn't until when Napster, and Metallica had that situation, I kind of realized maybe music might be in trouble,
Right.
you know, but I thought, everything's a trade-off. But I thought bands being able to put themselves out on, put themselves out online to have a forum to where people can discover them. But I feel in a way, Barb, and this is where you would probably want to know, instead of bands going out to clubs to promote, now they're just trying to do it all online. We're losing our personal touch, I think.
Oh, totally. I, in fact, we started out this season trying to find some place to hold live meetings again because I feel like we are losing that personal connection. And, truthfully, that's why the Colorado Music Association started, was to
Mhm.
have that personal networking between musicians and the clubs and so on and so forth.
Right. True. I would say also in that respect, the internet though has made people very brave on what they say and other whatnots, and there's not a whole lot of accountability, I don't think.
That's true.
Because I would, when I started booking, I just, would have to go in, I'd have to mean what I say what I mean, and kind of go through the word. And now these days, it's just, people can just, you know, people can just sling stuff. But I would say the first person that I dealt with strictly online, didn't even have a conversation or meet him in person, was Peter Ori from Nobody in Particular Presents.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have to admit that was different. Was that the same for you? You said you and Peter go way back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did not get the hang of what the internet was about, so I still continued to do the personal dropping off of the promo packs, trying to
Mhm.
connect with the booking agents, trying to get a date, blah de blah.
Right.
Finally, it occurred to me that I could send an email at any time of the day or night
Hmm.
and hope to God that that person picked it up and responded. For
Hmm.
a while there, I think that worked real well. But like
Right.
I said, I think people have kind of gotten away from it now.
Right.
Peter Orr and I got involved, I believe, with the Warp Tour,
Hmm.
and they were looking for a liquor license. And in the state of Colorado, your nonprofits have 10 one-day liquor licenses that they can use. And so we were for a while there in great demand for like the Warp Tour and
Hmm.
uh, the Riot Fest. Um, there was a couple of other ones anyway. And
Hmm.
And so that's how I met Peter, was
Right.
to get this off the ground to where they could get a liquor license. And then, of course, in return, then they donated X amount of dollars to the association. So,
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I'm just, Barb, I've always kind of wondered, I know, people, you know, the era that we're covering, we all had a love for the music and maybe there's so much money. What kind of money were we talking about? Was it, was it substantial, or do you just do it really the love of what you were doing and the appreciating you were getting from others? Did that outweigh the money? What was it?
me, I did not really get paid. My pay was in getting free entry to the clubs, free drinks. There
Okay.
was one club that paid me for each night that I booked.
Hmm.
I did it more or less not only for the love, but for a resume to say
Right.
that I
Okay.
had booked these clubs, and hoping at some point in time maybe to get on with Fay Line or something like that.
Okay. I was always wondering the angle. I'm like, a lot of people know her, a lot of people work with her, what she's going after. That explains a lot, so
Yeah,
oh,
it really was for the love of music, love of the musicians, always looking for talent. Uh,
right.
Part of me really wanted to be Brian Epstein and managing the Beatles,
Hmm.
and always looking for that band that could do superstardom. I had a
Right.
couple that were on the verge, and then things happened beyond my control, sometimes
Sure.
beyond their control. So,
I thought the one band that in me should have been bigger than the fray was a band called Love 45. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
yeah, they rented a practice place from me.
Where did you rent rehearsal spaces? Where was this?
Um, I had a couple of them, but the one they rented was up in Thornton. What was the
Okay.
address? About 80th and Washington.
Hmm.
It actually was the backside of a strip club, and I had four spaces there. Love 45, Sick,
Hmm.
Uncle Rip,
Hmm.
and then the fourth space went to revolving door of bands.
Right. Okay.
One was Mark Sundermeyer's, and uh, yeah, so kind of got involved with them. So I'm very familiar with Love 45.
Right. That was the one band because I remember seeing them at the Bluebird and they did a Perfect Feels cover of Help. I'm just kind of like, why aren't these guys signed yet? I thought they were immaculate,
Well,
you
they
know.
eventually did get signed. They got a record deal.
Right.
Um, they put Danny Elster in the lead position,
Hmm.
and Mick, who was a lead vocalist, put him off to the side of the stage.
Hmm.
So, but they had a pretty good going career there for a couple of years.
Right. Yeah. No doubt about that. Um, I would like to shift over to Euphony Music News. And what was your association with Bonita Berger? How'd you guys meet, and your involvement, and how did that go in the '90s?
I think we just sort of bumped into each other at Bangles.
Hmm.
Um, she started the magazine. I had nothing to do with it. She really wanted to be like Jerry Miller
Hmm.
from Metal Edge magazine.
Right.
Um, Bonita was kind of in constant competition with Jerry,
Sure.
and she was looking for somebody just to write an article once in a while. So
Right.
I started writing odds and ends of articles for her,
Okay.
and um, I took a lot of photographs. I know
Right.
that at one point in time, I can't remember if it was the Colorado music scene.
Right.
They featured four of my photographs,
Right.
and so I was thrilled to death with that, I can tell you.
Right.
So anyway,
I one of the things I brought this magazine is I remember you had a column talking about how cover bands don't need managers. And I'm just kind of
no,
like,
they don't.
no, they don't. And I confess. that was the first band I managed. I realized pretty quickly I'm like a fifth wheel here. There's no need for me, not at all. But
No, they need booking agents. There was a lot of controversy because they had a booking agent who was also, oh, a band I'm thinking of, booking agent who was also serving as a manager. And these people were actually kind of like double dipping. One was getting 15% for being their manager. The other
right,
one was getting 20% for being their booking agent. And actually, there are laws in several states that you cannot do that. Unfortunately, Colorado doesn't have one, but
sure,
California, New York, Tennessee, and I believe Nevada actually went to it too, where you
okay,
cannot have the same company doing your booking as managing you. Now, once a cover band has gotten into a place and the owner, booking agent there really likes them, they'll rebook them. You don't have to have somebody doing that booking for you, other than maybe the drummer.
right,
And uh, yeah, there's, the first band I worked with, I said something to them about I'd be so happy when they got into McNichols.
hmm
And I knew nothing about the music business. And they said, "Why do you think we'll be playing McNichols?" And I said, "Well, you guys are getting pretty good." And they
hmm
started laughing. And they said,
hmm
"Oh, we'll never play McNichols because we're a cover band." And I'm like, "Oh, what's a cover band?" And
hmm
so they had to explain it to me. And they did quite well. Uh, but like you said, after a while, it dawns on you they don't need you, and of course, they don't want to be paying you because they're getting their own bookings.
hmm
And so that's when I kind of switched over then to working with original bands
right,
because I realized that they were the only ones who could really climb up the ladder. So,
right, right. Um, describe to me your how you discovered symmetry and your friendship with John Bollock over the years.
that's a good question. I think when I met John, he was in the band Jess Steele.
hmm
And I believe they had a booking at after the gold rush.
hmm
And I saw them there and thought they were really good. And I really liked their songs. Their lead singer, Ralphie Ortega, was
hmm
really a good showman, good voice, good strong voice, a good
hmm
diction,
hmm
great eye contact, knew how to work an audience. John was the same way.
hmm
Um, at that time, their rhythm guitarist, but he was a co-lead guitarist,
hmm
Carson Ortega, who I
Right.
believe is a cousin of Ralphie's,
hmm
and E.A. Schultz was their bass player, and Matt, oh, name right out the window, Matt was their drummer. And they
hmm
did really, really well. And they put out an album, and they had like 450 people at the Gold Rush,
hmm
and they were definitely going places.
Sure.
And then they decided to let the drummer go, and that kind of ended that. So,
Right. Um, I was about after the gold rush. I will admit I'd go there every now and then, but not for the local circuit. I went and saw Rob Halford's solo act in early '95. I remember that, but it was really esteemed. But do you have any reason? What do you know why it closed? In when it became Hollywood Legends, it really didn't, really catch on. What did you know about that?
from after the gold rush, I think the reason it closed both times
hmm
was because they had a serious criminal incident that did
hmm
not involve them in any way, shape, or form.
hmm
And the police came in. And of course, the place had gotten so popular that the neighbors were really griping about the crowds. And of course, the people leaving the bar and urinating on the sidewalks and in the bushes and stuff.
hmm
And they had to get a shuttle bus uh, because there was an overflow of parking. Although I don't believe they ever violated any fire codes for people because the
Sure.
place was huge.
Right.
The second time, both incidents happened. They had set nights for things. Uh,
Sure.
uh, Thursday was metal night. Friday was like hip hop and rap night.
Right.
Saturday was, I don't know, it wasn't country, it was something else. And
Hmm.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays they did original bands.
Right.
And so both incidents happened on Friday, the hip hop night. And
Oh,
the last one was some kid wanted to leave. He was married, had two children, time for him to go home. So he left and went out and sat on his car.
hmm.
Somebody else came walking out and don't know the circumstances other than the person leaving pulled out a gun and shot the kid, killed him.
Wow.
And so that shut the place down. And like I
Sure.
said, really the bar had nothing to do with it, but
Right.
um, other than they had gotten so popular and the crowds were so big, and it was just kind of an excuse for Sheridan to shut him down.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right. While we're on that, let's go back to Bengals. And if you remember Oil Can Harry's up in North Glen, that ownership of Chris and Cindy took over Bengals in 98, 99. Do you recall that, right?
oh yeah,
Oh yeah. And just I
okay.
just
So go ahead.
set me straight. Set me straight. What happened?
Oh, I don't know. First of all, Oil Can Harry's was very successful.
Hmm.
Chris was the owner, and the shopping center decided to tear down the shopping center, North Glen Shopping Center, and decided to go with one of these individual buildings because people were dropping their kids off to babysit at the shopping center. So they bought Oil Can Harry's out. Chris got a fair price. And so he was looking for another place. And he and Jackson Cavender got
Hmm.
together and they purchased the old Bangles building
Hmm.
and turned it into Oil Can Harry's at Bangles,
Right.
which did not set well with Sammy Mai, the owner of Bangles, because he felt it infringed on his copyright trademark. Um, and that bar was doing, I thought, fairly well. I love the remodeling.
Hmm.
They moved the stage, just did a bunch of things that really made it nice. And so I really have no idea on why that shut down, other than it's possible that whoever, I think it was the Paradise Club, I actually have a
Hmm.
ticket for it. I don't know if you can see that. Um,
Oh,
Came in and offered them a price that they couldn't refuse.
right.
And
Okay.
so,
Now, I had heard, don't take this at face value. I had heard that the original trademark owner of Bengals wanted a four-digit price, for it, for the new Bengals to be called just Bengals. Is that any of that true?
that I have no idea about. All I
Okay.
know is Sammy kind of objected to the Oil Can Harry's at Bangles.
Okay.
And I quite frankly, if I had been a judge or a lawyer, I would have said probably would lose the case since
Mhm.
he's not using the name Bangles by itself. So,
Right. Okay.
but
Did
for
I?
all I know, Chris and Jackson, gave him some money to clear it
Right.
out.
Right.
So,
Now, going back to the old cans in Northland, because I believe, if I recall right, they never did cover, and they never did happy hour. They just had the same prices throughout. They had the cover band circuit and let originals on Sundays. You dealt with Chris and Cindy with original bands and in Riot Act, if I recall right, right?
yeah, Riot Act, yeah, but they booked themselves. So I had nothing to do
Okay,
with that.
you had nothing to do
And
with that.
no, now I did Riot Act as an original band, but
Okay,
as a cover band, they did their own thing. Yeah, and I booked several shows because I worked with quite a few bands. I would set up like package deals.
sure.
So I set up a show one night with More
Hmm.
and Friction, I think it
Hmm.
was, and we had a really good crowd.
Right.
And then I discovered,
Hmm.
quite by accident, that we had set it up on like January 20th, 19th with Martin Luther King being the next day, and everybody had it off work. So people came out to the bar and they stayed.
Oh,
And so
cool.
we had this. So after that, I made a real habit of checking out federal holidays and booking bands on the Sunday night before.
Oh,
And so that they got really good crowds.
oh, good. That makes total sense. Um, I was gonna shifting gears. I will go to another club, Isle Park Saloon. What was your history with John and Ben, the old owners, and when it transferred over to Mike Bruno? What was your history, with Isle Park Saloon?
Well, I did a lot of their booking on their original nights as well. In fact, they're the only ones that offered to pay me for booking.
Sure,
And um, I gave everybody a chance, and I told
sure.
the bands when they called me, I don't care what you are, anything from soft rock to heavy metal.
Hmm.
Uh, you like got one chance to prove yourselves,
Sure.
and be on time, set up on time, get off the stage on time.
Hmm.
Uh, bring in a crowd. That's the only way you'll get paid. I had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Um, and because I kind of understood the bars thing too, which is, we're providing you a place to play, we're providing you a stage. In a lot of cases, they were providing decent lights and a
Hmm.
sound system. At
Right.
that time, bands like Riot Act and Cottony Act and Electric Playground, all them, they had to provide their own sound systems, which meant trooping in all that equipment, setting it up, tearing it down at the end of the 4 or 5 days. And so to me, a bar that provided all that stuff, the least you can do is kind of help providing with customers.
Right.
So
No, that makes economical sense. There's some other clubs around town, and how familiar were you with the Zone in Littleton that was located in the old Cooper Theater? Did you have any involvement there?
no, in fact, when you mention it, I had worked with two clubs called the Zone. One
Oh,
was on like Fourth and it's a North-South Street,
mhm.
Havana, I think. Fourth
Okay.
and Havana,
Right.
and the other one was way out west. It's under I-70 on Ward Road, and
Okay.
in fact, I think it's called the End Zone. And
Okay.
I did book a band there one night, and
Mm.
like, you know, 2 hours before they were to go on, the guy called and said, "Oh, I got to cancel them." And so, no particularly good reason. I think he was afraid that he was going to have to pay him, and
Right.
because I did ask for guaranteed pay, and um, and I said, "But that's it. I'm not booking them again,
Hmm.
anybody there again." So,
Sure.
and then
Well,
the one out on Havana,
mhm.
they only did cover bands Friday and Saturday night. I couldn't talk
Right.
the guy into trying original bands.
Right.
Uh, I booked a band in there called Black Virago, and they did really well, except for some reason they were doing a Beatles song, right out the head again.
Mhm.
Uh, and he reversed the second and third verses. Oh
Mhm.
my God, the bar came unglued.
Oh, wow.
So the guy
Ouch.
wouldn't book him. He wouldn't book him because the singer accidentally reversed the second and third verses.
Oh, man.
Come together right now. That's
Right.
what they were
Okay.
doing.
Oh, the reason I bring up the Zone in Littleton and just since it's being recorded and other people are going to watch it, if there was a rumor, Joe Candelario shared it with us, is that there was a rumor that the stage actually just cracked and and someone fell allegedly. So if anyone in this archive that's participating knows anything about it, please share it with us.
You
Because if
mean
it's
at the
true,
at the zone?
yeah, at the
At
Zone.
the zone? Okay, because there was an incident like that at a bar in Thornton off of 84th,
Hmm.
called the Castaways.
Okay.
And they had built a stage. They had an addition on the building, so
Hmm.
they kind of like knocked a hole in the building,
Hmm.
built a stage into this addition, and then they built kind of like a little runway,
Right.
and somebody was jumping up and down on the little runway, and it went through.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I don't believe a lawsuit was ever filed over it, although I think one could have been. Um, but I wouldn't book bands there after a while because, oh, one of the bands set off a pyro that went boom,
Ooh, okay.
and it scared the bartender slash booking agent slash co-owner
Mm-hmm.
half to death, and she told him, get out immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted them out of there. And so, okay, so we're not booking there anymore either, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow,
Another venue that was, it wasn't bad, but it was very, very bizarre was the Buffalo Rose. You did business there, didn't you?
oh yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Now, when I was working with Chief Spargo, you know, and Bob, if I'm not mistaken, this is 99. A guy named Bob, he did written contracts and he gave original bands Wednesday and Thursday. And he would give you $150 per night, but you had to play 3 sets. So what we broke it down to is that Silencer played 1 set on Wednesday, Thursday, then we found two other different bands each night, you know, the one before Silencer, one after Silencer, and the same thing went on to Thursday. That's how I met Joe Candelario out of that deal, you know. But did you experience a different rate of pay, different nights? Well, what did you experience?
You know, I'm trying to think. I know I did a few shows there, but
Mhm.
generally I put the opening acts in for the national bands. So
Right.
like somebody was to open for Great White. I worked a
Hmm.
lot with Karen Kraft. I think she did a lot of their booking. She also served as security
Hmm.
and a gopher and all that. And I think she worked with Bob.
Okay.
Um, I kind of got involved when was the name Murray took over,
Hmm.
and um, Soda Jerk Productions had scheduled um, well anyway a national act,
Hmm.
and they were going to put them at the 15th Street Tavern, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh my God, they can't play at the 15th Street Tavern. So I went up and talked to Murray and talked him into doing putting the show on up there.
Hmm.
Let the guys from Soda Jerk. It was Mark with Slam Pro and his friend, and then somebody from Soda Jerk, and let them handle all the business details. I just set the venue change up,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
so same deal. Murray hadn't sold enough in advance tickets, so he wanted to cancel the show. But
Sure.
again, he tells us like 2 hours when the band shows up to play the show, you know. And so after that, I didn't really deal too much with him because he was stiffing the bands. I heard
Sure.
that through the grapevine all over the place. So
Sure.
um, anyway,
Yeah.
um, I did put on a couple of shows. I know
Hmm.
that Jess Steele was supposed to do the opening for a national act.
Hmm.
They won a battle of the bands to do it, and
Hmm.
then we got there and found out they had been put on first. Another band had been put in second,
Sure.
who had not won the contest. We
Sure.
don't even know where they came from, and but I think it was somebody decided to pitch in on the cost of the show. So in other words,
Sure.
they did a buyout kind of thing. So
Did they?
which
All right.
happens all the time. Yeah.
Right. Well, that leads into my favorite venue in the burbs, and that's X Saloon, which I thought aesthetically, sound wise, quality wise, drink wise, food wise, I thought was Denver's best club in the burbs, I think.
Well, I liked it.
Yeah.
Love their their green chili burritos.
Uh,
uh,
that,
I got in there because when Mike Bruno bought into it,
mm-hmm.
uh, I decided to go over, and I had kind of worked with the guy named John Davis on
Mm-hmm.
putting some original bands in there. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure that the original band still had a night.
Right.
And so this was kind of a funny story. I
Sure.
walked in and Greg Stone was
Mm-hmm.
standing there and he was talking to Mike. And I walked up and Greg goes, oh, and gives me a big hug. And then he turns to Mike and he says, if you want somebody to book your original bands, this is your girl.
Mm-hmm.
And he's told Mike, you need to talk to her. And so that's how I kind of got into booking X. And unfortunately, I quit, got fired, and it was not Mike's fault at all. I
Mm-hmm.
booked 8 bands for December one year,
Mm-hmm.
2 bands on each Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the 8 bands, only one showed up.
Wow.
The rest called and canceled like 6:30 at night, and
Mm-hmm.
then like 3 of them just did no call, no shows.
Right.
And Mike says, I can't pay staff, I can't pay the sound guy. Was Blake at the time,
Sure.
and I understood that, and I was very upset with the bands as well.
Sure.
That was stupid, and they're calling, they're wanting places to play, and the least you can do is show up.
Right.
And I'll tell you what happened one time. I booked a band into Herman's Hideaway. Um, the bass player had just graduated from college, got himself a wonderful new job, unfortunately involved traveling. So the night they were to play, the bass player calls me up and he says, I'm being sent out of town. I got to catch a plane at 4 o'clock. Can't play. I go, you got to be kidding me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on the phone. I called Alan Roth and I said, bass player just canceled on us, but I'll tell you what, the band's going to show up. I'm going to show up with notes saying the band is here. We want to party with you anyway. Sorry, we can't play. And so that's what we did. We stood at the door
Mm-hmm.
and the band sat there. They schmoozed with the crowd, and they were bringing in a good crowd, believe me.
Mm-hmm.
And Alan was always so impressed with that,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that we bailed, but we didn't bail. We still brought him in customers. He still made money,
Mm-hmm.
off of the band,
Mm-hmm.
and he was always grateful for that.
Right.
So so
The,
that's how I ended up losing X. But like I
right.
said, it's no animosity toward Mike because I really understood. The only ones I
Mm-hmm.
have animosity toward is the 7 bands that didn't show up.
Right. Now, we're going to stick with X for a moment because I remember there was a band in the 80s, Pretty Boy Floyd, and they actually came in and actually technically opened for Russia. Now,
Yeah.
set me straight because Judy Larson from Colorado Rock gave me an email, and I believe you forwarded it to her, and then we saw Pretty Boy Floyd's little hospitality rider demands. Lots of liquor and like 8 packs of cigarettes. What did you know anything about that? Because I looked at and
No, I didn't. In fact, no, I have no idea about that. I know the band Pretty Boy Floyd. I've seen them perform several times. They
Mhm.
spawned a band called Ugly Kid Joe.
Right.
Uh, but Pretty Boy Floyd had to be a better act. I mean, if Bangles had been open, they would have been headlining a show, at
Oh yeah.
Bangles and probably getting a minimum of $1,500 to $2,500.
Right.
So
Well,
plus this ridiculous writer.
right. Well, I would say the reason I bring that up is because amongst the cover band acts, there were to me it appeared there were haves and the have-nots. The haves were like Itis, Witch Doctor in Russia that warranted 800 or more. Then were
Right.
other bands. I understood Whiskey Bills in the 90s paid 200 a night. They didn't care
Yeah, they
who.
were pretty bad.
They were pretty bad. But I would say Itis to me was the most entertaining band in the Colorado circuit. You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah, they brought in a really good crowds.
Right. And I'm going somewhere with this because every time I went to X and it was Witch Doctor Week or it was Itis Week or it was Russia Week, that place was wall to wall. And I'm not saying, other acts like Vendetta or Tick 60 did anything less. No, they're all very good, pickable entertainers. But I really felt that the vibe of X and how Mike ran things, it was just like it was like, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. That's the impression I
Oh
got from
yeah.
him.
And he paid attention to advice.
Hmm.
Um, he wanted to know some stuff. And I told him, I said, on weeknights, quit trying to make your money from midnight to 2 a.m. It
Hmm.
just isn't going to happen. And he had that lovely front bar there. He had a great
Hmm.
kitchen, had the pool tables and stuff. I said, make your money from 5 o'clock to 9 when the bands
Hmm.
start.
Right.
And I said, figure out something. That's when he started bringing in the games, the
Hmm.
trivia, and all that stuff.
Right.
And then at 9 o'clock, you could hang on to the bands for a little bit longer.
Hmm.
Um, and I think he paid the good bands quite fairly. I never heard any complaints about that whatsoever.
Right.
And if you could bring in a good crowd. Now, the problem with like the Buffalo Rose thing,
Hmm.
um, Wish Doctor was to open for him. They
Hmm.
didn't tell me that they were playing at X that week.
Oops.
So boy, did that shoot the crowd down for
Hmm.
the Buffalo Rose show. So I
Right.
learned after that, check with the opening band to make sure they're not playing someplace less than 20 miles away.
Sure. That leads me to when I booked Pinky's prior to Colorado Rock in 2003, and remember the opportunity in 2001. If you recall right, Barb, we that stage in 2003 when it got built, we were actually on a dance floor. Did you ever go to Pinky's during that time just to at least see what was
when
going on?
when it had a dance floor?
Yeah, we did live music on a dance floor. At
No.
okay.
The
'Cause-
stage was built and I told I told Judy,
mhm,
don't let them build a stage here because there's a pole right in the middle. That's
mhm,
what killed Whiskey Bills. It's what killed Area 39.
mhm,
You just cannot have a pole in the middle of the stage
right,
unless you're a strip club,
right. Oh,
uh, place out in Commerce City. That
mhm,
killed them there too. Um, yeah, so yeah, I didn't really have anything until after the stage was built
okay.
there.
Well,
So
well, the reason I bring that up is because th I inherited the job from from one of the owners who knew I was in the circuit. I knew a lot of people, and I took it over. I said, sure, let's do it. But I changed the sound service. From running PA, we went from one service and we went to Scotty Brown. Scotty Brown was the first cover band musician I became friends with, and that was in late '97. And I just somehow I found him. I'm just like, I hear you do PA rental, and lights, and he took it on, no problem. I can tell you, Barb, that it was either we would try to do DJs on Fridays and live music every Saturday, but sometimes we'd switch that around. I would say I learned a lot about music and the business itself from Scotty more than anybody. When he'd come in, bring in the PA, set up, and he'd want to have lunch, and he would just tell me, okay, these people don't know what they're doing. These people, they know what they're doing. Reason I bring this up is because for Pinkies, I wanted the best of both worlds in terms of the cover circuit as well as the original circuit. And when I told Scott that, and we had a show with Drug Under Drudgery, which packed the joint, then that convinced my bosses to get the stage built. And when I told Scotty what was going on, he was decent enough to sit me down as well as Madeline Tallarico about, hey, there's a difference between a cover crowd and an originals crowd. Like a band like Peace, Love, and Destruction, they'll bring their people, but once the set's over, they're gone. But for like Witch Doctor, and all these other cover bands, there's a base group that goes to that club. And I think, he showed me that's how it works at X, and we have to change. He was right.
Oh yeah, very definitely. Yeah, well, and there's what the dance crowd and the music crowd, the beer drinking crowd, the dance crowd.
Right,
So the reason places like the church and vinyl and all them worked is
right,
because, well, A, they were doing stupid disco stuff, but they played songs that people could dance to. And when I
right.
worked with the cover bands like Riot Act, I said, I don't care if you don't like the song. Uh, Play that funky music, white boy.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to flood the dance floor every time. And it
Mm-hmm.
does. It's still to this day, one
Mm-hmm.
hit wonder, they're going to flood the dance floor. I
Right,
said, your pay totally depends on flooding the dance floor. And
right.
so you've got to do songs, especially the ladies love. Stop doing Detroit Rock City. I'm sorry. I know it's a guitar player's song, but
Mm-hmm.
the girls can't dance to it. They don't like
Right,
it. The guys like it, but the guys also like the girls out on the dance floor wiggling around a lot
right,
and more than they like Detroit Rock City.
right,
So, I would try to teach, and I worked with Russia. I worked with IDIS a little bit.
right,
A lot of those taught in the act.
right.
Um, after they went to Guild of Ages and
Mm-hmm.
whatever else, they got like 18 names going now. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so
The- I,
anyway,
boy, one of my favorite Itis memories is the guitarist, one of the guitarists, super cool guy. And the NCAA men's basketball tournament was going on, and he's like, hey, what's the score of the Kentucky Texas game? And I just screamed out loud. He's like, thank you, keep me posted. And I kept them posted in between songs. I'm like, Kentucky up by 7, Kentucky up by 9. It's that just a fun little memory. But my big point in all this is just that if the original circuit is to, has to answer for something, is that they didn't understand it was about entertainment, about necessarily about entertainment, which I think Mike Bruno got that I think a lot of us did not.
well, that was one thing I tried to stress to them as a manager, that if you
Hmm.
can't entertain the crowd,
Hmm.
and quite actually, I said, what you feed the crowd is what they feed back to you. If you're
Hmm.
dull and boring, the crowd gets up and leaves.
Right.
One band had a player that constantly put the women down.
Hmm.
And I said, stop doing that. I said, they leave.
Hmm.
He goes, no, they don't. And so his lead person paid attention. Sure enough, about 5 minutes later,
Hmm.
girls had finished their drinks and out the door.
Hmm.
And I said, you have absolutely got to start insulting your customers. It didn't really work for Rodney Dangerfield. He was
Right.
lucky that he could get on television shows where it was kind of a one-time only thing, so everybody thought he was funny. But he did have trouble filling clubs, And
Right.
so I worked with the original bands and, really stressing to them, in fact, I just had to um, go after another guy about the lack of eye contact, how
Hmm.
important it is. And I said, if you watch any of the talent shows like American Idol and The Voice and
Hmm.
Sing Off, all of them, some point, in
Hmm.
fact, I got the biggest bang out of I was watching The Road the other night,
Hmm.
and they said, uh-oh, he's not watching his audience. He just lost his audience. And that
Hmm.
was the guy that got booted off. And I said, oh, I wish I'd had my recorder going on that,
Hmm.
uh, because that kind of is like the number one thing. I can name you a band right now, had huge crowds, huge. And the singer sang off key.
Hmm.
But boy, he had the greatest eye contact in the world
Hmm.
and reached down and shook hands with everybody in the audience and all that. They just loved that guy. And he
Hmm.
was never going to go anywhere at that time.
Sure.
Now he would have because they've got auto tune.
Hmm.
But at that
True.
time, he wasn't going to go anywhere because he sang off key. But they
Sure.
had huge crowds. After the gold rush, loved booking that band
Right.
because they brought in and this is something the bands, original or cover, need to understand is if the bar is going to provide you a place, the reason they're doing it is because they need customers. And I know it sucks
Hmm.
totally. But if you can't bring the customers in, or if you can't keep them there, then
Hmm.
you need to really find out what you're doing that's wrong.
Hmm.
Because A, you're not going to get booked back again. You
Hmm.
know, B, you're not going to get any kind of an increase in pay. Maybe
Hmm.
your pay is zero to $25 a night, but hey, it puts
Hmm.
gas in the van.
Sure.
Uh, so yeah, so a lot of it you've got to be entertaining as well.
Right.
That's why I think so many of the 80s bands went
Hmm.
over so well, and they're still around to this day.
Hmm.
People, they made fun of Bon Jovi and Aerosmith and all them, but they're still around, they're still drawing big crowds.
Hmm.
uh, Look how excited everybody got when Rush announced that they were
Hmm.
going to go on tour again.
Right.
And great songs, but they were entertaining. It'll be interesting to see how they do with the new female drummer. But
Hmm.
hey, I'm for her.
Not
So
sure. On
Sheila
that,
E, yes.
two other topics I want to touch base on while we're recording. Number one was you know, I was going to ask if you remember the tribute bands in the tribute band circuit started really making its way around the early 2000s. Case in point, I remember you and Judy booking Satisfaction multiple venues in Denver in a week. This was in 2005, and I had a great time with it. You know, but when the tribute circuit emerged, what was your initial impression?
Well, A, I didn't understand what in the heck.
Hmm.
Uh, and people don't understand the difference between a tribute band and a cover band.
Right.
Cover band does a variety of songs, and they usually will do, 3 to 4 45-minute sets. A
Hmm.
tribute band will do one set, sometimes hour to hour and a half long,
Hmm.
and they do only one band songs.
Right.
Now, and then there are the band, I can't think of the name of it. You have a zillion of them, the Kiss bands and that, where they wear the
Hmm.
makeup and they
Right.
try to be that band. That's a whole different thing too. Um, Michael Morrow and Jeff Sekra did a Kiss tribute that went over pretty good here. Uh, but they went to all the trouble of, putting on the makeup, dressing like the band, and so on and so forth. So uh,
Sure.
I I thought the tribute bands um, had a place, but I can
Sure.
tell you right now that boy, you had to be careful about it. Buffalo Rose booked a couple of tribute bands. This was the worst pairing that did go-go tunes and the Runaway tunes, and they had them open for not the Runaway, go-go. Who's the other one? Bangles, go-go, and the Bangles tunes, uh, opening for Great White. That went over like a
Oops.
lead balloon. People booed him off the stage, and that was terrible. And I felt so badly for those
Sure.
bands and for the girls. The girls were really good singers in that,
Hmm.
but people were there to hear a good hard rock
Hmm.
band. So don't
Right.
don't go putting pop rock bands in before them.
Right.
Uh, Somebody did the same thing opening for Skid Row at the Fillmore,
Hmm.
um, which was a mammoth at the time. Uh, they put a really, really heavy, almost death metal band in to open for Skid Row, and that went over like a lead balloon too. So,
Hmm.
so booking agents, really need to watch that, and I
Hmm.
think that's why I got called consistently for my package deals because I put similar bands together. They didn't
Hmm.
sound alike, but they
Right.
were all very entertaining and of the same genre of music. So you didn't go in expecting to hear a blues band and had this deathcore metal
Hmm.
band. And
Sure. Sure.
if I put a blues band in, then I put two other blues bands with it.
Uh,
So
final topic. I I've wondered what live music's going to be like in the year 2100 after we're all long gone. And I openly wonder, Barb, I'm sure there'll be live music of some format, but in terms of cover bands, in terms of entertainment, When will AI take over? A little, some, half, most, or all of it?
I'm going to say there's going to be a great market for AI, but it's still going to take an Elvis to interpret it because basically that's what Elvis did. All of these singers that use somebody else's music, you
Hmm.
still have to have a good interpreter. So
Right.
you can sit down, I can sit down, we can use AI, we can write the lyrics, maybe even somewhat write a melody. But
Sure.
unless we have a Carrie Underwood or
Mm.
whoever, Beyonce, Jennifer Lopez, somebody that can really uh, translate that music, because AI will never be able to put the heart and soul into a song.
Sure.
So, uh, and people will still want to go out and dance. They'll do it for disco for a while. But
Sure.
after a while, that kaboompity, kaboompity, kaboompity really gets to you. And you don't really meet people there. I've
Right.
gone to a couple of dance clubs. The girls are on the dance floor dancing, the boys are over in the corner, just like the high school dance.
Hmm.
Exactly the same. The boys are in the corner talking football or whatever. The girls
Hmm.
are on the dance floor.
Sure.
So, and I think things go in cycles. Even the Bible said this. Joseph
Hmm.
said 7 years of good, 7 years of lean.
Hmm.
And I think we're still going to go into that cycle. At some point in time, people are going to want to start going out again so they can actually meet people. And then it'll
Hmm.
fizzle off and then it'll go again. So you have to sit down and kind of figure the cycles to 2100 to see
Right.
is that going to be an up or a down, you know?
Right. So, that is something we'll be doing. I'm going to go